little bit of Tycho. It's Tycho, Tycho. It's the song Dive. It's a great album. September 11th, 2018. A lot of us remember this day 17 years ago. Does that even make sense? 17 years ago? Does not seem like that far away. Respect to all those who have fallen in that memory. First responders, fire department, police, ambulance, EMTs, just the regular citizen who came to the aid of people and lost their life. And to all those who are still living, we appreciate you for giving your courageous efforts out there to unbury the living, buried people underneath all the rubble, and in any way, in fashion, form that you helped out back on that horrible day and there from that point on. I know a lot of families have been hurting, so that's I don't know. It's one of those things where you have to reflect back on what the real meaning of this day is, like what it represents. And I've been hearing some comments about 9/11 was fake and this and that, and it doesn't matter really. In my opinion, it doesn't matter what side of the story or what side of that tragedy that you take. Undoubtedly, people lost their life that day. Undoubtedly, a building that I had visited, I'd been at the World Trade Center before. Those two buildings, they're not there anymore. I went back. I was there before, and I've gone back since. And that was real. Those buildings really did come down. The way they came down, and all the conspiracy and or theory. I'm not tearing those theories or conspiracies down in any way, and I'm not hyping them. What I'm just plainly explaining is that on this day, a lot of life was lost, and it was an eye-opener for everybody involved in this U.S. culture, North American culture, the West, if you will. It was an eye-opener. And I think the biggest issue, the biggest problem that has arisen from that day, it's not going to be ISIS, it's not Al-Qaeda, it's the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is the document that has stripped all but just a few of the inalienable rights that we have as U.S. citizens. One of the last free frontiers, if not the real, true last free frontier in the world. So this is just I guess not a preclusion, what do they call it, like the a post-assessment of the podcast and of this day. And again, this is just winding up. I don't know what this is winding up. I was going to make this a conclusion to another podcast, the 63, but this can just be podcast 64 because it's just one of those days, man. It's just like a Pearl Harbor day, We don't remember those. We don't remember that for the most part, because that was such a long time ago, and most of those people have passed away. So those stories are just kind of, they're in the books that are written, they're in the videos that are made, and then they're in the stories that are being passed along from generation to generation. So I guess that's why you need to keep talking about 9/11 and keep bringing this up, because it's relevant to the future. It's relevant. Our past is relevant to our future. So I was going to start the Unflinching book, Making of a Canadian Sniper by Jody Middick. And unfortunately, my time does not allow me to go crazy and read a bunch on the book. But how about this? I will read the preface or the preface for some of you. And then I'll hang it up and I'll go on and do my thing. This book is dedicated to my fellow snipers and to the men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces, past, present, and future. Pro Patria. Unflinching by Jody Middick. This is the prologue. Never give up. It was 2007. I was a master corporal and sniper team leader in the Canadian Armed Forces. I just celebrated my 30th birthday in Afghanistan. I survived 3 tours over the course of 7 years, and I've been preparing for war for my entire adult life. But nothing prepared me for what was about to happen next. On January 11th, a week after my birthday, our 3-man elite sniper unit, Barry, Cash, and me, led by my boss, Gord, was sent on a mission. We were to intercept Taliban insurgents fleeing the Canadian forces as we advanced on an Afghan village. We stepped through the wire at Strong Point Center and headed through the thick mud of a farmer's field. A while later, we arrived at the opening in a wall leading into the village. I was bringing up the rear and couldn't see what was ahead, but Barry could. Barry was my point man and was always razor sharp. 2 small steps led up to the low entry. 2 small steps. Barry went through the opening first, followed by Gord and Cash. Rifles at the ready. They all cleared the entry without issue. I was up next. I took those 2 steps, clearing the entry in the green glow of my night vision. I saw Cash covering at 6 o'clock position. I tapped him on the shoulder to signal that I was in position and moved to following the others. We always kept 10 meters between us when we were moving, just in case something goes wrong. I sensed Cash was moving away from me as I watched our rear for threats. When I felt the right amount of time had passed, I looked over my shoulder to confirm we were keeping the proper spacing. I took one last look at our rear and then turned to follow the team. But as my right foot touched the ground, a massive orange fireball soared across my face. For a few seconds, I was floating, weightless, suspended in space and time. I didn't hear a sound. The next thing I knew, I was on the ground. My mouth, eyes, ears, and nose were full of dirt. I was confused. My night vision was gone. Where was my trusty C8 carbine? I had it by my side for the last 5 months. And then the pain hit. A pain so intense that it completely overwhelmed my body. Such a small thing, an anti-personnel landmine, about the size of a shape of a thick hockey puck, but full of deadly explosives. I'm not very religious, but they say that there are no atheists in foxholes. As I punched the ground as hard as I could, I screamed, "Oh God, oh God, oh God." My fellow snipers rushed to my side. "Sorry guys, I just fucked the mission." At that moment, this is all I cared about. "Fuck Jody, don't worry about it, man," Barry said. It was dark. My eyes were full of mud. I tried to look down at my legs, but I couldn't. Barry crouched over me, blocking my view. Whatever was going on with my legs, he didn't want me to see it. The next hour was the longest of my life. Your mind goes to the weirdest places in a situation like that. I was so thirsty, but confused to drink much. I was so thirsty, but refused to drink much. I remembered an episode of MASH in which Hawkeye says it's a bad idea for the severely wounded to chug water. For some reason, in that moment, I chose to take medical advice from a TV show that had been off the air for decades. With each passing minute, I was growing weaker and weaker. Barry and Gord were both kneeling next to me doing first aid as Cash kept watching signs for the enemy. "Do you think I'm going to make it?" I asked. "Of course you're going to make it. Never give up, Jody. Never give up. You know that. Never give up." The phrase repeated over and over in my head. It still does to this day. And that will be the conclusion of the Topsnap Podcast number 64. God bless all those who have died ever since that September 11 and on. We know the world has changed dramatically since those days, regardless of who was at the helm of all the terror and the problems. The bottom line is us, the free citizens of the world, the last of the Mohicans, as I like to say, because really there's nobody else like the United States left in the world. There just really isn't, and that's why everybody wants to come here. So God bless all those who have given their life and or limbs, like Mr. Jody Middick, for the preservation of humankind, keeping the spirit of freedom, liberty, and justice. All right. God bless to all those who have fallen. God bless to all of our men, women serving in all the armed forces. And God bless all of the people in our counties, in our state, and in our local communities that are putting their life on the line, whether it be firemen, policemen, ambulance people, and those line workers out there. All the people that are giving their effort to make sure that we have the lights on and that we're safe as can be in this world. All right. Never forget, September 11th, 2001. Topsnap Podcast. Thank you very much.